The Raiders continue to operate as a serious organization by making more moves to their front office. Plus, let's get to know wide receiver Donte Thornton Jr. That plus more on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for May 6, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome here, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you if you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page. You know we appreciate both. The show continues to grow each and every day, and that's because of your support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. So we definitely shout him out. We appreciate him. And Raider Nation, again, I appreciate you so much continuing to come back to the show each and every day. Without you, Raider Nation, doesn't matter who's behind the scenes, doesn't matter who's operating the show. None of that matters. Without you, the show is not the show. So thank you so much. And again, shout out to my man Ari. You can find him on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we've got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line 707-654-4693. As we normally do, we'll close out the show hearing from you. Calls, texts, whatever you got to say, whatever your thoughts are on the draft and current players on the team as well. We'll get all that coming up in segment number 3 as much as possible, as we do for the most part each and every day. That'll be segment number 3. Segment number 2, get to know wide receiver Donte Thornton Jr., taken in the 4th round, pick number 108 overall. Chase Thomas of the Chase Thomas podcast actually joined my radio show on Monday to give us a nice little breakdown on what Donte Thornton Jr. could bring to the table for the Raiders in his rookie year. So you'll hear that in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, and we'll go ahead and jump right into it. And as I mentioned off top about the Raiders continuing to operate and try to operate as a serious organization, I'll tell you, I start my radio show like this just about every day, how refreshing it is to hear so many people on the national scene, people that are just, cover the NFL and been covering for a very long time, just have glowing reviews about what the Raiders have done and the direction that the team is going. It's not going to be fixed overnight, right? You're not all of a sudden going to go from the outhouse to the penthouse. It doesn't happen like that. But to know that they're making the right moves and people are looking at them saying, okay, I see the plan in place. That's one of the biggest questions we've had for the longest is, wait, well, do you know what the plan is? And I always have said, no one ever tells me what the plan is. So I'm sitting there watching as everyone else is, observing as everyone else is. But to see this staff and this version of GM, head coach, front office people look like they're putting something together that really makes a lot of sense is refreshing. And I'm hoping that these guys are in place for quite a while so they can continue to build this thing the right way. And all of a sudden, the Raiders are back to commitment to excellence and just win, baby. And that meaning something more than just a T-shirt that you see at Walmart or wherever the case may be. It actually means something. It's not just a slogan on a T-shirt. But getting into those front office moves, Anthony Patch joined the Raiders as senior personnel executives. The Raiders actually sent this email out on Monday. Patch comes to the Raiders from the Eagles, where he is part of 2 Super Bowl championship teams. He most recently served as the team's senior director of college scouting since 2016 and held the titles of director of college scouting 2012 to 2015, assistant director of college scouting 2010 and 2011, West Coast area scout 2003-2009, and college scouting coordinator in 2002. Prior to joining the Eagles, he began working in the NFL in 2001 as an intern in the Miami Dolphins personnel department. He was a 4-year player at defensive line and linebacker at Carroll College in Helena, Montana, where he earned a degree in finance before going on to earn an MBA from the University of Montana in 2001. So another move made to the Raiders front office. Again, this is something that we've been talking about quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. The Raiders continue to make more moves. Guys leave. Guys are being brought in. John Spytek is putting his thumbprint on this organization and guys that he's very familiar with. And he has familiarity with Anthony Patch from their time back at the Philadelphia Eagles. But if you have respect for the Eagles and what they've been doing, obviously they're the defending Super Bowl champs, but Howie Roseman as a GM has done some really good things there. So I don't think it's a bad thing when you start to pick off guys from his staff and bring them into your organization. So the latest move made by John Spytek is Anthony Patch as senior personnel executive. Also, this has been reported, and matter of fact, going all the way back to late last week and over the weekend, I saw it a little bit, but has not been confirmed by the Raiders yet. Ashton Jeanty signed his rookie deal. I think. Right? If you go to overthecap.com, and I know there's some other NFL insiders that have talked about him signing his deal. According to overthecap.com, Jeanty signed a 4-year, $35.896 million contract with the Raiders. That was back on May 2nd, and the contract is fully guaranteed. It includes a $22.746 million signing bonus. His base salary for 2025, according to overthecap.com, $840,000, $5.6 million prorated signing bonus, and what all that equals out to, 2.1% of the salary cap. Now, again, that has not been confirmed by the Raiders. And normally what they do when a guy gets signed, you'll see the guy taking the picture there at the facility. You know, they'll have a caption. He'll say something to Raider Nation, and the Raider Nation's social media, or the Raiders social media team, will put something out. And then on top of that, they'll send an email. Just like they sent an email on Monday about Anthony Patch joining as a senior personnel executive, they always will send an email confirming the signing of one of their players. Now, that could be right now, right? As you're listening to this, I could be getting that email in my inbox right now. And what I do is I always screenshot it and tweet it out at your boy Q254 and the radio station at RNR 920 AM. At Ari Produces. We tweet those things out just to say, hey, here's confirmation of what we've already been hearing. So I believe that Jeanty signed the deal. Again, it's on overthecap.com saying that he signed on May 2nd. I know one report said that Aaron Wilson, who covers the NFL, he's there in Houston, he reported it, but then I went back and looked at Aaron Wilson's Twitter account, and I didn't see it at all. So kind of take it with a grain of salt. Not like it's a big deal. The deal's going to get done. The way that these rookie contracts are slotted now, it's pretty easy to get done. I know Simmons, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, he's already signed his contract, his rookie contract. There's been a couple guys that have signed their deals already. So it'll get done sooner rather than later, but it seems like it's a potential that it might already be done, or at least agreed upon as of May 2nd. And I'm sure, like I said, when he actually puts pen to paper and the Raiders make it official, their social media team will tweet it out so you know about it. I did, before we get into the conversation about Donte Thornton Jr., before you actually hear about him from our guy Chase Thomas, who joined my radio show on Monday, I wanted you to hear what Steve Palazzolo had to say. He used to be a Pro Football Focus. Now he's at the 33team.com. He does a show with Sam Bronson, who also used to be at Pro Football Focus. It's called Check the Mic. He was pretty fired up and talking about Donte Thornton Jr. as his wide receiver 4. Here's what he had to say, and this is before the Raiders selected him on day 3 of the NFL draft.
Let's have the Donte Thornton discussion right now. Let's get it out of the way, man. Let's get it going. Donte Thornton is 6'5". He runs a 4.3. No one's ever done that. No one does that type of thing. He's the closest thing to DK Metcalf. I was personally pleasantly surprised by how well he moved outside of the straight line speed, how well he sunk his hips for 6'5" for a 4.3 guy, how well he got in and out of his breaks, and how well he caught the ball. So Donte Thornton at 6'5", running a 4.3 with some ancillary skills that are not awful that you usually see for that type of skill set. I am intrigued. Donte Thornton, he's the guy I'm taking a shot on as my wide receiver 4, deep threat. Run the DK route tree, run the go, run the post, run a slant. Donte Thornton's my dude.
So there you go. You hear him talking about run the DK Metcalf routes, right? And it's funny because DK Metcalf is a guy, and I've even thrown that comparison out there because DK in Seattle was a big play maker for the Seahawks, but he's not as big as DK, and not many are. Like DK, this guy Thornton was created in a lab. DK was in like a super lab, right? How do you become so fast, so big, so tall, and also so full of muscles? Like his muscles have muscles. His muscles don't even know what that muscle is. I don't know. That's just an extra muscle hanging around. I mean, that dude is a big dude, and Thornton is not that size, but he does have speed, and he is 6'5", and those are two things that you can't teach. So what does he bring to the table? What should Raider Nation expect from him year 1 with the silver and black? Well, you'll hear that breakdown next from Chase Thomas. Chase Thomas Podcast does a fantastic job. Join my radio show on Monday. You'll hear part of that conversation. You'll hear it next here on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about one of the great sponsors here on the show, and that is FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Speaking of, did you see the Knicks? Did you see the Celtics Game 1? Yep, can't miss moments. Went to overtime, and the Knicks, who were down 20 at one point, found a way to come back and win. So whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And that's what you want to do, right? You want to win big. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets just like that. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. You heard with Steve Palazzolo, 33team.com, Mike Check, formerly of Pro Football Focus, what he had to say about Donte Thornton Jr., and that was before the Raiders selected him in round 4 of the past NFL draft. So Chase Thomas of the Chase Thomas podcast, he covers the Tennessee Volunteers like a glove, does a fantastic job. We had a really good conversation on my radio show on Monday about all things Tennessee, probably about a 20-minute conversation. I'm not going to hit you with the whole conversation, but we'll focus in on what he had to say about Donte Thornton Jr. So we started off just asking about Donte, what he brings to the table. How does he compare to Jalen Hyatt? Remember the former third-round pick of the Giants just a few drafts ago? So here's Chase Thomas and myself talking all things Donte Thornton Jr., including what he brings to the table.
Donte Thornton is a little bit different. I heard Rhett talk about the comparison between Donte and Jalen Hyatt in 22. I think it's fair in some capacity, but I think it's a little bit different with Donte. Donte started out in the slot like Jalen last year before moving to the outside primarily this year. And at 6'5", and with his kind of speed, he's a little bit more versatile, I think, coming into the league than Jalen Hyatt a couple of years ago. And I think he probably has a better chance of seeing the field earlier just with the Vegas wide receiver room as of right now. But one of the things that I think stood out about Donte was that when you watch Tennessee games last year in particular, games where Donte was not able to get a lot of snaps or Donte was taken out, Tennessee did not win those games. Tennessee, if you look at the 3 losses last year, the Arkansas game, the Ohio State game, and the Georgia game, Donte Thornton was not a factor. And Donte Thornton, in particular against the Vanderbilt game, so for any Raiders fans who want to see what he can do and take the top off the ball for against opposing defenses, it's the Vanderbilt game, the final regular season game where he had 2 big yak plays in that game to get Tennessee back into it after a slow start on the road against their rivals. So I think Donte, if I had to compare the two with him and Hyatt, I think he has a better chance of developing sooner rather than later at the next level. And I think his versatility between being somebody who can be on the inside and the outside kind of separates him a little bit. And I think that versatility will benefit him in Vegas.
How difficult is it, in your opinion, for guys to translate and kind of develop from the Josh Heupel offense to all of a sudden an NFL offense that seems to be at least a lot more difficult to be able to pick up?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that Tennessee has to continue to deal with in recruiting. But I think when you look at Jalen Hyatt, he hasn't been able to crack the rotation with the Giants. But if you look at Cedric Tillman, he's really found his footing in Cleveland on the outside, and he was more of an outside guy, more in the Thornton role. So for me, I think obviously the route tree is not as expansive as it is in other locations, but I also just think that's a little bit overblown because these guys also run a lot of routes, different kind of route trees in the high school level. And Heupel is expanding his route tree a little bit more each and every year. Like, for instance, Tennessee went up 12 personnel, pretty heavy last year, so they were doing a lot more tight end sets and not doing a traditional slot guy as much. So I think, guys, if you're talented, you'll figure it out. And these guys, like Donte Thornton, is someone who will figure it out, just like Tillman figured it out. Velus Jones was used all over the place. If you remember in 21 and 22, or 21 rather, for Tennessee, he's been able to hang around the NFL too. You just look, I think with guys like Thornton in particular, they're going to be able to make plays and be big yak guys and guys who will be able to run different routes than they were asked to do at Tennessee, because these guys are super talented and they'll figure it out. So I think that's a little bit overblown.
For his game to continue to grow, we know he's got the size, we know he's got the speed, and that's a great step to have and a great first element to have in the NFL. But for his game to grow, where do you think that he needs to improve the most?
I think he has to, for one, stay healthy. I think you got to look at his snap counts. One of the things that's going to be really important for Donte at the next level, I think, is just being able to be available. His availability was kind of iffy last year, and I think that was one of the reasons that Tennessee, when their passing game really slumped last year, was when Donte just wasn't able to give them a lot of snaps. So that's something that's a big thing for Donte, is just being able to handle a high snap count, high load. Because you look at that depth chart in Vegas, and I think he has a lot of opportunity there. He's just got to stay healthy, because when he is healthy, he is a really productive player. I think he's really good over the middle. I think he's really good, obviously, on vertical balls. Like, one of his best plays last year was just a go ball against Alabama in the second half. It was one of the best passing plays for Tennessee on the season, with him and Nico down the right-hand side, and he just laid out. It was a great play. I think for him, it's, like you said, it's kind of the top, but just different kind of route trees that he has not been asked to do as much, and also just see if he can handle NFL contact and see what he does after contact, because a lot of his stuff is just when he beats his guy, you're just not catching him, like against Vanderbilt or Oklahoma, for instance. He had a couple of those plays. So he's great in space, but I also am just kind of curious how he handles contact at the next level.
Competing is what Pete Carroll's all about, is compete. When it comes to just all-around competition and maybe being the first one in, last one out, where would you say Donte is in that regards?
One of my favorite things about Donte is, like, certain guys where they see themselves as slot guys or outside guys, or they want to go where they're comfortable. And I think Donte being able to play and start off in the slot, where he clearly was not as comfortable as he was on the outside, he went with it until they moved him outside. And he's a competitor and a gamer, and just definitely a well-liked guy in the locker room. And I think he's someone who just will catch on wherever he goes. And I think his speed and work ethic is strong. And I would not be surprised if Donte Thornton is a really good player with the Raiders and with Pete Carroll and what he's looking for over the top, because I think his kind of athleticism and his kind of size and speed after the catch is just those guys they're not easily found in this league.
Right, exactly. It feels like that it was created in a lab. I mean, to be that size and to be as fast as he is, I mean, it's really unheard of. A lot of people are kind of drawing comparisons to DK Metcalf, who obviously Pete Carroll worked with in Seattle for quite a while. I've heard some interviews from Donte where he's basically saying, hey, a lot of people have things wrong about me. What kind of chip on his shoulder does he have? Is he one of those guys that kind of pushes himself based off of having a little bit of chip on his shoulder, when people may like categorize him as maybe a one-trick pony when it comes to a certain style of play, and he's out to prove that he can do more than that?
I think that's just the natural. That might be the thing with Tennessee's receivers, just because of what you were talking about, with just what they're hearing with just the route tree and what you're hearing with Tillman. I mean, you had Ramel Keaton last year, another Tennessee guy who played a lot of different roles for Tennessee. I think those guys, and just the kind of guys that Heupel and Kelsey Pope, the receivers coach, who they recruit and bring in and develop, they're all pretty versatile guys and all great leaders, whether it's McCoy, whether it's Keaton, whether it's Donte. I wouldn't count them out, and I think they definitely naturally have a chip on their shoulder, because they do, I'm sure, hear the noise about Heupel's scheme, and some people calling it a gimmicky type offense. I mean, the production speaks for itself. His 4.3 speaks for itself, and I think he's a competent guy with just what he's put on tape. The main thing is just he's got to stay on the field. Mm-hmm. He's got to get the snaps, and he's got to hold up, because if he can, then I think he's got a huge opportunity with the Raiders and with Pete Carroll. But he's got to also bulk up. I've seen the DK Metcalf comparisons too, and I just the size, like, he's got to add a lot more weight to get to that point. But you also kind of wonder if that's even a route you want to go, because he's so quick and he's so good in space that you don't want to bulk up too much and lose some of that speed that makes him just a dangerous player whenever he gets the ball in his hands. Well,
Chase, I got to ask you, I mean, Tennessee football was the conversation of everybody. It didn't matter what outlet you were on. It was a conversation from everyone for a few weeks there with Nico Iamaleava and his situation that he had going on there. How is Tennessee football right now? He's made the move to UCLA. Just how is everyone feeling around the Tennessee program, what they're going to do this year moving forward?
Man, it's interesting, because, like, it's been a couple weeks now. So the first part of it was just kind of shock and awe, but it was also like a rallying cry of, like, well, no one's bigger than the T, that sort of thing. And then it just kind of wears off. You're like, okay, well, we're making a trade with UCLA essentially with their quarterback with Joey Aguilar, and it's like, well, Nico's gone, and Tennessee had CFP expectations. They were tied with Bama, Georgia, and Texas with an over/under of 9.5 going into the year, and now it's down to 8.5 post Nico. So even if you believe that Tennessee made the right move in taking a stand and just saying no one's above Power T and Nico moves on, it's still just like your ceiling this year for sure got lowered from the departure of Nico. But I think Tennessee is they have such a strong foundation defensively and with their ground game, as I talked about with Dylan Sampson and company, is that Tennessee's going to be able to run the football. Tennessee still got a good schedule. They were top 10 in scoring defense last year. The scoring defense has gotten better every single year under defensive coordinator Tim Banks, who's become one of the elite defensive coordinators in the sport. I think they're still a high floor team. I just don't think the ceiling is as high without Nico, but 8 to 9 wins, I think, should be the expectation. I think a lot of fans are just looking at it as like this is kind of a crazy circumstance that Tennessee and Josh Heupel found themselves in, and we'll make the best of it. But I don't know. I think Tennessee has a high floor this year. I don't think the bottom's going to fall out, and they're going to have a Florida State 2-10 type year just because they lost Nico. Because one of the things about Nico last year is he wasn't very good. I mean, this Tennessee offense was shut out for a month straight in the first half. And Nico kind of turned the corner from the second half of the Alabama game on. But Donte Thornton, to put it all together, he bailed Nico out several times this past year, and especially in that Vanderbilt game to close out the year. And when he wasn't around, things were really, really difficult for Nico and this offense through the air. So now it does hurt not having Nico in year 3 in the system, but I still think Tennessee should be solid, just maybe not a CFP favorite anymore.
Nice little deep dive right there. Chase was a fantastic guest on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, on Raider Nation Radio 920. And it's funny because we try to find guests that either can come on the podcast or the radio show. Sometimes I try to find them that can come on both, but with timing and with everyone super busy, including myself with multiple different shows, want to be able to get you the information as quickly as possible. So hopefully you enjoyed that from Chase Thomas, all things Donte Thornton Jr., what he brings to the table. And sounds like he has an opportunity to be more productive with the Raiders year 1 than even Jalen Hyatt's been able to do with the Giants, because as you heard Chase say, hasn't really got an opportunity to get on the field and do too much. He's a guy that stretches the field as well. I remember having many conversations about Jalen Hyatt before he was drafted in the 3rd round by the Giants, that, hey, maybe he could be that guy the Raiders have been looking for to stretch the field. So I'm intrigued by what he brings to the table. The one thing that I'll say is that Chase said was about availability, right? He's got to find a way to stay healthy. That's obviously going to be the biggest thing. We talk about it all the time. Your best ability is availability, and he's got to be available. Now, that doesn't mean that Trey Tucker is out of the mix and he's not going to be able to provide something. I actually had someone point out on my radio show that, can you imagine what Trey Tucker can do in Chip Kelly's offense? And that's something to get excited about. A wide receiver screens, tunnel screens, just getting it to him quickly, letting them operate in space. Now, Dante's not a guy that's going to go out there and be fantastic in blocking, but that's okay. That's what a guy like Jacoby Myers is for. That's what a guy like Big Mike is for. That's what others are going to be able to be out there and be those blockers for, like a wide receiver screen for a guy like Trey Tucker. But I feel like that there's multiple ways to use this speed. I mean, there's again, you can't teach speed, you can't teach size. Donte Thornton Jr. has both. Trey Tucker obviously has the speed as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Chip Kelly puts all this together and uses these guys. But of course, Dante's got to put his best foot forward, and he's got to make the squad, and he's got to be available to be able to be a productive player for the Silver and Black. But that's what I got for you, a little bit of a spotlight on Donte Thornton Jr., getting to know him, what he brings to the table as a 4th-round pick in this past year's NFL Draft. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts. What is on your mind? 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you next here on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about another great sponsor here on the show, and that is Skylight Calendar. Say goodbye to sticky notes, scribble plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy place. So what would it mean to eliminate the I didn't know excuse from your family's routine? Everyone has it, right? If it's not your family, it's somebody at your job, right? Oh, I didn't know. I didn't see. I didn't have any idea. What would, seeing your whole week clearly on a 15-inch HD screen mean, right? Help you stay focused and less overwhelmed? That would be awesome. Well, right now, Skylight is offering all of our listeners here on the Locked On Raiders podcast $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. That's skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal, skylightcal.com/NFL. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start off with a quick call from CB in Colorado Springs, calling to talk about Ashton Jeanty and Daniel Carlson, their jersey swap, and also a second-year guy to watch out for. Here he is, CB in Colorado Springs.
Hey, what's up, Q? This is CB from Colorado Springs. Hey, man, love your show. I just want to touch on a couple things. So I'm up here living in North Colorado Springs. And I want to touch on the Jeanty Carlson number swap. My daughter goes to the same high school that the Carlsons went to, and their entire family, the parents still live up there. The entire family is as classy as it gets, both Daniel and his brother and his parents. And let me tell you, that guy was probably ecstatic to give Jeanty his number 2. I guarantee you, there's no bitterness or nothing there. He's a great class act. He's just a good dude. And you were also talking about breakout players. Now, this isn't a rookie that was drafted this year, but I'm also a season ticket holder at the Air Force Academy, so I live right across the street. Watch out for Trey Taylor, man. I'm telling you, he's a big safety, 6 foot, 200 pounds. I mean, that's right up Pete Carroll's alley. So watch him. See in his second year. Let's see how he develops. See if he gets any time playing. So that's a name to look out for. All right, Q, you have a great day. Love the show, man. Rate it.
CB, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you, my man. And I have no doubt about Daniel Carlson and him being just a classy dude. He's been A1 since day one. Since he arrived with the Raiders and since I've been here locally in Las Vegas covering him, he has been a fantastic guy. Good game, bad game, whatever the case may be, he has been that dude. So I have no doubt about that. What I'm interested in, was there some kind of agreement on the number swap, whether it be certain amount of money, whether it's an item. My guy Quan Cosby, who went to the University of Texas and played in Indianapolis, he was there in Indy when Andrew Luck got drafted, and he told me that the way that he ended up giving up his number, he was number 12, and Andrew Luck wanted that number. He made him come do his free youth camp. He had a youth camp in Mart, Texas, and so he said, hey, come to my camp, I'll give you the number, no big deal. So it wasn't something massive like some ungodly amount of money. It was just, hey, make an appearance at my camp, go out there with the kids. It'd be cool to see a number 1 overall pick in Mart, Texas, and at my campus. So that's what they did. So it could be something as simple as that. It could be something more. It could have been nothing. It could have been like, hey, you want this number? Cool, no problem. I got you. Who knows? But I guarantee you one thing, it'll be something that we ask both those guys the first chance that we get. So thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Big K in Kentucky. Hey, Q, love the show. Quick story and shout out, if that's okay, followed by a question. Would like to talk about how I became a Raider fan. My best friend was sadly killed while we were working together at a nightclub, and he was a huge Raider fan. I was a fantasy football guy, so it was easier to have no allegiance to any actual team, just my Kings for hockey. And not long after he passed, the Raiders drafted a lineman named Colton Miller, who is from the same town as my friend Sean and also wore 77 at the same time. Also the same number my buddy wore when he played and had his honorary jersey for our rec hockey team. At that point, I saw too many signs that led me to join the nation. It's been rough, but I think it was his last way to mess with me from up there. So in closing, thanks, Sean, and until we see each other again, just win from my boy. Let's see. Great show. Oh, and to add a question, would you do a hypothetical 52-man roster you think we may end up with? Great show. You've overtaken my morning political news on the drive to work every day. God bless, Big K from Kentucky. Thanks so much for the text. Thanks for sharing the story as well. And sometimes that's how it is, right? Sometimes there's just a bunch of signs and, you just kind of feel like, hey, this fits and this is right. And maybe your good friend Sean, maybe that was his final message to you, like, hey, man, you need to get away from fantasy football and come on over to the Raider Nation, to the black hole, right, the silver and black. Maybe that's his way of doing that. And, yeah, we'll definitely do, the 53-man roster breakdown, what I'm anticipating, but we'll do that later on. We'll do that after rookie mini camp's over, mandatory mini camp's over, training camp is just about wrapped up right around the time when they get ready for the 53-man roster. I really like to do everything based around the calendar of the NFL, kind of go in waves, because as you know, since we do this each and every day, you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. I don't want to put the 53-man roster out there, then all of a sudden, 3 guys that I think might make it, are no-shows or injured in training camp. And so it's like, I don't think those guys are going to make it after all. So I kind of like to go in that kind of order, but there's no doubt about it. I'll definitely do that. So thanks so much, Big K. I appreciate you. And I'm sure the political stuff can get a little get a little not so fun. So I'm glad that you found the Locked On Raiders podcast to go ahead and consume your mornings. I do appreciate it. Just kind of kidding, little tongue in cheek there. So thanks so much for the text, though. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Cameron from Boise, Idaho, by way of the Bay. He's calling to talk about his feelings in regards to this draft class that the Raiders have put together. Here he is, Cameron from Boise, Idaho.
Hey Q, this is Cameron out in Boise, Idaho. Originally from the Bay Area. My dad was born in Oakland. Anyways, lifelong Raider fan. Got some actual bloodline in the Raider lineage. Anyways, I really appreciate your coverage this draft season. Been phenomenal, and felt exactly the same way you did right after the draft, that this was our best draft class, at least as of right now it feels like, since 2014. And it's really good because I thought last year was probably our best draft class since 2014. So really excited, can't wait to see what happens, and it was awesome watching Ashton Jeanty play all year long on the blue turf. And then seeing him with my Raiders, the dream come true. Still kind of surreal. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Love you.
Killer Cam, thanks for the call, my man. I sure am happy that so many people nationally, as I started off the show locally, fans are all pretty pumped up about what the Raiders have done, right? It's rare. It's rare that happens. Most of the time, as my guy Joe Fortenbaugh says, there's teams that are serious, unserious, and for entertainment purposes only. A lot of years, man, the Raiders have lived in the world of unserious and for entertainment purposes only. It honestly feels like they are becoming a serious organization with all the moves that they have made. So I'm excited about that. Obviously, the proof will be in the pudding when they get it done on the field, or if they get it done on the field. As far as Jeanty, getting him on your favorite NFL team, when you got to see him up close and personal there, that's got to be a good feeling. I'll tell you, my boss at the radio station, Natalie, her son goes to Boise State. Matter of fact, he's about to graduate. He was in the band. His name is Cole, and he was so pumped up about Jeanty. It's all he kept telling me the whole lead up to the draft. Got to get Jeanty. Got to get Jeanty. He's such a nice guy. I talk to him all the time, right? And again, he's in the band, so he would travel with the football team to different venues, and so he was so fired up, pumped up. He was at the Raiders watch party with my boss in Las Vegas while I was in Green Bay. But when I got to talk to Ashton, there was a picture of me taken, so I sent it to my boss, and I was like, "Here you go. This is for Cole. He'll like that." He was so pumped up and excited just because Ashton Jeanty is his guy. So I could totally understand where you're coming from as well. Thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from 973 Raider. Q, what up? 973 Raider here. Why are we not happening about the fact that Colton Miller was at voluntary workouts? Maybe he's saying, why are we not talking about the fact that Colton Miller was at voluntary workouts? Unless what I was reading was wrong, they completely disregard. But if he was there, can we be a little more comfortable that they will get a deal done, or at the very least, he will not be holding out? Also, big shout out to Brock Bowers for going back to Georgia to finish his degree. There's no doubt in my mind that he is training with his old team while he's there. He absolutely did not have to go back to school to do that at this time, but it's awesome when he does. Another big year coming up for 89. Keep doing what you're doing, Q. We all appreciate it. That's 973 Raider. Thanks so much for the text. And I didn't think that there was going to be some big issue about Colton Miller anyway. I felt like it makes too much sense for him to get a deal done. Of course, we talked about it when it was first reported that they were at a standstill, and he wasn't at volunteer workouts, but he did show up at voluntary workouts. You saw pictures of him floating out there at a mini camp or on social media. But on top of that, it's voluntary. So don't want to get too, up in arms about not being at voluntary camp. There's many reasons for that. I think something will get done, even if it's just a one-year deal, just because they don't want to open up another hole. Again, this is just my gut feeling. I don't know that. It hasn't been confirmed, but I feel like that they'll get something done. He played last year with no money guaranteed. He has no money currently guaranteed on his contract. I feel like that there's something they can do about that, at least to get him through this year and let him have an opportunity to prove what he brings to the table. As far as Brock Bowers going back to school, I think that that's awesome. It really is. I love to see these players continue to better themselves and going back to school, getting your degree. That's great, because we know the NFL stands for not for long. So to have something like that to fall back on is pretty awesome as well. Side note, I want to shout out to Jacorian Bennett, who over the weekend, he actually got baptized. And I thought that was really cool. Jacoby Myers was there in attendance. Champ Kelly, who's no longer with the Raiders organization, was there in attendance as well. I believe Amari Gaynor was there as well. Just to be able to have that moment. I saw a picture of him floating around on social media with the sign in his hand saying, I got baptized. So obviously that means a lot to him. I have a lot of respect for Jacorian Bennett. So again, when I get the opportunity to talk to him in the Raiders locker room or at practice, mandatory minicamp, whatever it is, we definitely want to get his thoughts on that as well. Just think that that's really cool to see guys, like I said, take the next step and do what they feel like they need to do to better their lives. And, regardless of how you feel and what you believe and what you don't believe, again, it's just an effort for these guys to better themselves. I can definitely appreciate that. So really good stuff from all those guys, and not mad at like I said, them trying to get better and take care of their future as well. So thanks for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Just got time for a couple more. This one comes from Raider Educator from the 925. He's calling to revisit the Geno Smith trade. Here he is, Raider Educator from the 925.
What up, Q? It's the Raider Educator out of the 925. Hey, I just wanted to revisit the Geno Smith trade real quick. Just thinking about it. Great job from Spytek and Carroll, because we knew we had to get a quarterback out of this draft. Everybody wanted a franchise quarterback, but getting a starting quarterback was a priority. And if you think about it, we traded the third-round 92nd pick for Geno Smith. And Seattle goes ahead and turns around and uses that 92nd pick on Jalen Milroe. Now, I was thinking about it, and I like Milroe. I think he's got great upside and everything. But what if we were going into the season, let's just say hypothetically, we had taken Milroe with the 92nd pick, and we're going into the season with Milroe and AOT competing for the starting job. I would feel very uneasy about the offense going into the season. But now that we got Geno Smith moving forward, we know he's a good veteran quarterback that can operate that Chip Kelly system very accurately. So, again, I just want to give props and credit where credit's due to Spytek for seeing that. Now, on the other side, I also think Seattle's probably liking that trade from their end as well, because they picked up Sam Darnold, so they have their veteran. They got their developmental guy. So I just revisiting it, I think that was a good trade for both teams. Very happy that the Raiders pulled the trigger on that early. We got a cap-friendly contract. All right, tell me what you think, Q. Have a great day. Go Raiders.
Thanks so much, my man. I appreciate you. And yeah, I'm with you 100%, right? I wouldn't want Milroe and O'Connell to be the main two options, the best two options for the Raiders this year. Now, Milroe with Geno, I think would have been fantastic. That would have been awesome. If they could have got him and Seattle didn't go get him, I think that would have been great. He could have sat behind Geno for even a couple years and learned, still had some packages there involved with him, but Seattle got him, and that's cool, right? And I think that he has the work ethic to do the very best he can. Can he turn into a franchise quarterback? Only time will tell. I know he's not ready to start day one, that's for sure, but in Seattle they have Sam Darnold, as you mentioned. We'll see what happens with Cam Miller. I know we did a little bit of not a preview, but kind of a behind the scenes and get to know Cam Miller and Tommy Mellott. We did that at the same time. I want to do, a focus just on Cam Miller as well, just as a quarterback. I also was able to catch up with Kalen Kaler on Friday last week to do a piece on Tommy Mellott as well. I thought that was some really good stuff. So we're going to do a lot of these different focuses and bring a lot of this to the table as well, so we get as familiar with these players as possible. So we'll see what Cam Miller, 6th-round pick from North Dakota State, we'll see what he ends up being. Can he be the next guy following Geno Smith? I don't know. But, at the very least, what they did is reset the backup quarterback and his contract situation because, as you know, Aiden O'Connell's going into year 3. He only has a 4-year deal, so he can be out of there sooner rather than later. So thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. But, yeah, John Spytek and Pete Carroll definitely did a good job getting Geno Smith with that 3rd-round pick, not forcing themselves to have to get a quarterback early in this last year's draft. Up next, got a text from Trey in Missouri. He says, hey, Q. It's Trey from the enemy territory in Missouri. First time writing in. Want to start by saying appreciate you and Ari for the grind that you guys do each and every day. I'm a truck driver that gets up at 2:30 a.m. for work, so these early release times make my mornings a lot easier. I believe the Raiders were more talented than a 4-win team last season, but coaching and inconsistent quarterback play led to some bad losses. The new staff has attacked this offseason the correct way, and I'm excited. The offense last year was atrocious, so John and Pete took every position on that side of the ball and improved it. Play calling, quarterback, halfback room, wide receiver, O-line, all saw an upgrade. Our defense doesn't have to be as elite as long as the offense can play complementary football and keep the D off the field. unlike last season. Obviously, still a lot of holes, but this team will be competitive next season. As Trey in Missouri, I think you hit it on the head. There's not really a lot that I have to say to back that up, except for you're right. Right? The team definitely had talent last year. It didn't have depth, and so when injuries hit, they were really bad. But, a better play caller is going to help out the offense in a major way, and consistent quarterback play, if you can get that, will help out as well. Thanks so much for that text. Definitely appreciate you. We'll close out with a call from Raider B in Minneapolis. He's calling to chime in about a few different subjects. Here he is, Raider B in Minneapolis.
Hey, Q, Raider B here from Minneapolis. I just wanted to chime in, just call in. As you know, I've been listening to you for many years. Love listening to the show, but I always love listening to all the callers. So just a quick call today. First of all, Caden from Wisconsin, my next door neighbor. I'm here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but just wanted to say thoughts and prayers to you and the Wheeler family. Sorry to hear about your loss, and I'm sure all of Raider Nation is. We all got each other's backs, as you know, so prayers to you and the family there. Also, Bo from the 530 called in, and he had asked, he's a truck driver, so appreciate that, Bo, but he had asked how he could listen to your radio show. So I don't know if I'm overstepping anything here, Q, but if I am, you won't play this call. If I'm not, we're good. Las Vegas Sports Radio Network, Bo. Get the app, Las Vegas Sports Radio Network. It's fantastic. I listen to Locked On Raiders every morning. I can't always listen to all the live shows, but if you go on there, they'll do them all in podcast version, or you can listen live. So that's from the morning tailgate with the guys to JT the Brick to Q's unnecessary roughness. So anyways, hope it's all right. I said that, just looking out for all of our fellow Raider callers here, Q. But Las Vegas Sports Radio Network, wonderful app. Allows you to listen to all this stuff. I can appreciate that, Bo. I was a traveling sales guy when I found Q years ago on his a previous podcast, and so I know what it's like driving around and looking for content. So, anyways, that's all I got. Thanks, Q, for everything you do. Peace out, Raider Nation.
Thanks so much for the call. And, yeah, definitely prayers out to Caden in Minneapolis and the loss him and the Wheelers suffered. Again, as I mentioned on Monday's show, it's just you hate to see or hear about the loss of life, especially when it was something that sounded like it was very preventable. So we hate that. And then Bowen, the 530, I'm glad you addressed that. I got so caught up in the Henry Ruggs part of the conversation that I forgot to do my own show plugs. Right? I mean, I had multiple people reach out to me and was like, Q, you can listen to your radio show. And I was like, yeah, I know. I just completely whiffed. Right? I was, like I said, so caught up on the Ruggs part of the conversation, was so passionate about that I just completely forgot to, like I said, plug my own show. Ari was even like, hey, Q, do you need me to send you a reminder so you can do it? No doubt. But as Raider B said, LV Sports Network app, you can listen to the shows live. You can go check out all the podcast forums, lvsportsnetwork.com. You can find Raider Nation Radio right there. As Raider B said, the morning tailgate, JT, and then myself, all three shows back to back to back, boom, like that. You can find those. They're available. The podcast version is also available everywhere you get your podcast, just like this show, except for YouTube. And if that's not enough of me, if you still want a little bit more, I might as well go ahead and get all the plugs in. You can listen to Joe and Q on ESPN Radio from 9 a.m. to noon Pacific time, 12 to 3 Eastern time. And that podcast is also available wherever you get your podcast. So I guess in a nutshell, I do a lot of shows, which is probably way too much me, but that's okay, right? That's okay. While they still want me to do all these shows, I better do them because there's going to be a time come, and it happens to everybody, where it's like, yeah, we don't really need him all this time. We don't need him on this interview. We don't need him on that interview. Yeah, we'll get someone else. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. So you do as much as you can while you can and appreciate every minute of it. And, of course, I do and enjoy doing it as I do each and every day, whether it's here on the podcast, on the radio show, or my other radio show. No matter what it is, always have a great time. But thanks so much, Raider B, for the call. Definitely appreciate you. And Bowen, the 530, sorry that I neglected that other part of your call. And like Raider B said, definitely appreciate all our truck drivers out there, whether it's Trey in Missouri, not Raider B, but Bowen the 530, or anyone else out there driving the trucks. We do appreciate you as well. So that's going to do it for today's show. Got a text from Raider Tommy in Santa Monica. We'll get to that tomorrow. Got multiple calls as well. We'll have more news and notes. And of course, we'll have plenty of more conversation here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.